this off. Thanks, Vinny.
Yeah, sure. Sean, we'll start with transfer stuff, first of all. Just on James Tarkowski, anything further from West Ham in terms of another bid for him, and anything from Leicester City as well?
No, nothing's relevant at the moment. We're hoping it's not, obviously. Want to keep our best players in-house, that's for sure. And he's a very good player, and he's delivered for us on a consistent basis over a long period of time. So, as I mentioned before, I don't see why any player would leave here at this moment in time. And if so, I would imagine that the numbers are considerable for that to be even considered.
At the same time, how confident are you of keeping him? Because we see reports today that you would go in for Craig Dawson were he to leave.
Well, there's reports on us being in for a lot of players over a lot of time. 8 years. So to be honest, if you look at the ones that actually come true, there ain't that many, trust me. Usually because they cost money. So that's them out in the first place. No, with James Tarkowski, I'm not planning on anything else other than him being there.
Joe Worrell is one you're being linked with as well? What truth, or is that another one?
I know, on a list, you can keep throwing them in, linked with as many as possible. I think Kenny Burns, we're linked with Kenny Burns as well. Good looks Ken, see if he's going to come out of retirement. Some centre-half, mind you, I will say that. Larry Lloyd, I think, as well. Good combination, apparently, them two.
Just in general terms in the transfer market, though, Sean, would you like to get the business done earlier? What's the main difficulty you're finding in getting that done in the end as well?
Well, the main difficulty is quite obvious. It's finance. That's always been difficult here, so that's not new. It's just an historical fact. Every manager, every coach, every coaching team, for that matter, wants their players in early. Everyone wants to work with them. Obviously, we've got a very short period of pre-season this time as well, and closed window. That's obviously made it more of a challenge. We know that. But no, like everyone else, ideally, you get your job done early with your recruitment, and therefore it gives you a longer window to work with your players. Historically, that hasn't happened here. It's not happening again at the moment. So that's just part of the challenge and the ongoing challenge managing it.
How long, though, can you go on leaving business relatively late and performing the way you do in the Premier League?
Well, it's a challenge. We know that. The group needs reinforcements. We've lost players at the end of lockdown. Good players, I think, have served the club well and served their team well. We are looking, by the way, but it's not an easy situation. When you're looking at the finances, what it is, it's a tricky situation. And also as well, yourself, we've always, and I think we've done well with it, we've tried to bring in players that can either challenge what we've got here or mould into what we do here, as well as some what you'd probably recognise as more starters, if you like. And we've done that quite well, I feel. In fact, very well over the time that I've been here. With the way that we operate, it's not an easy situation to operate, with no budgets and stuff like that. So we kind of have found a way of making it work. I have expressed that it is an ongoing challenge, and the challenge is getting harder each season. But that is the challenge. I've always thought, as long as you, as a manager, as long as you know what you're managing, you've got a better grip on it. So we've tried to manage the situation the best as possible, and I think we've done that well up to now. I think the other thing is you've got to remember, I think we've got a very, very good group here. Although it's low in numbers, we've still got some very good players here. We've still got Corky to get fit. We've still got Barnsley who's getting fitter to get truly match fit. We've still got Ben Mee to get match fit. So, they're very good players who will come back into the fold. So I must make it clear, I like the group we've got. Can we reinforce it? Can we add to it? Can we adjust it? Can we mould it accordingly? Then that's the next challenge. And as you said, it's a time-bound challenge with the window coming up soon, or the close of the window. But that is the challenge, and we have to keep doing it.
I take it those three you mentioned, no chance for Sheffield United. Any chance for Leicester at the weekend?
Unlikely. Barnsley's doing very well. It's us as much as, probably more than him, actually. We want him to get some football matches into him, not just the training. So he's going well at the moment. Ben Mee, we're just being a little bit cautious with. He had quite a high-level strain at the end of lockdown. So we're being a bit more cautious with him, and appropriately so. And then Cork is obviously a slightly longer situation due to the nature of the operation he had. But that's all going well. So all three are in good shape, but it's unlikely, I feel, they'll be involved this week.
Obviously, your first competitive game of the season, has that little bit of an extra break come as any kind of advantage to you?
No, I don't think so, really. We were ready last week. We managed to get a game in on Friday, which is another 90 minutes. But it's not the same as the real thing. That comes around, starting on Thursday, obviously, with Sheffield United before we go down to Leicester. I don't think we've overthought it, really. I think the players are aware of it. We put the fixtures to them as soon as we got them and planned accordingly.
The fact that Leicester is so close to it in your first game in the Premier League this season, how does that impact your thinking going into the game against Sheffield United in the Cup?
We've only got so many players for starters, so the thinking is not as open as maybe some other clubs where they've got players all over the place. So we've got a certain group to pick from. We think they're motivated. They've certainly looked motivated through pre-season. We want them to go into this game motivated, and any change that we think will be still designed to win the game.
What importance then do you put on the cup competitions this season? Because I imagine you look at it more than just a chance to fine-tune things ahead of the weekend and your kick-off in the Premier League.
Well, I've made it clear all along. The Premier League remains always the highest level of concern, where we want to be in that. We want to keep going in the Premier League. We've tried to take the cup competition seriously. We've mixed the team. We've kept the team. We haven't always delivered in the cup competitions. But that's sometimes the way it goes. But I've never lost sight of the real challenge, and that is continue what we're doing in the Premier League.
I take it you were able to see Sheffield United last night. What did you make of them? A bit of a slow start, but they still had those chances to really get back into that game against Wolves.
Yeah, well, they're a side, I'm a big fan of Chris's and what they do there. They're a side that don't go under easy. I thought Wolves were excellent, I must say, in the early part of the game. And, I've always liked what they do. They're a good side. And I think Sheffield United weren't far away from getting back to what they are, second half particularly. They took the game on. Another day you might sneak something out of that game. But no, they're a good outfit. I like Chris a lot. I respect him, and I like his team a lot. They're a good mixture of, they can work here, they play hard, they play aggressively, but all in the right ways for me. They play it in the right way. They get on with their game, and I don't think they bow easily. And I think we've done that well here. We don't bow to anyone we play, and we just take the challenge on. Certainly another tough task. But as I said every week, every game, cup or league in the Premier League, when you're playing Premier League sides, especially, is a tough game. So our players are well aware of that.
Yeah, what is your message to the players when you face Sheffield United then? What is the biggest thing to cope with when you're up against them?
Well, first of all, the winning mentality. You want to start the season, whatever game is there, with the winning mentality. So that's something that's always we've tried to instill into the players and kind of build here beyond anything else. But about Sheffield United, they know them. I certainly think after last season, I don't think Chris is going to make radical changes to what he's trying to do there and the way the team's operating. Why would he? It worked nicely for him. So I don't think there'll be radical change. I think they'll offer a very similar format. They may change, but I doubt it. And we've got to be ready for that.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinny. Jared, who's ready to make a show?
Thank you, Pete. Hi, Sean. You all right? Question from me about your last pre-season game completed. Are you pleased with how the squad is looking going into the Sheffield United game?
Yeah, we haven't got Ben and Barnes, who are probably the two we thought we might have now. We haven't got them going into these couple of games, but they're making good progress. So that's probably the only thing. We knew that Corky would miss this early part of the season, or we felt that he would. Behind that, the players who played, I thought they were motivated. I thought they looked really stimulated to give a good performance. I was happy with that. The opposition, to be fair, weren't maybe as strong as a Burnley. They couldn't get 4 or 5 of their players over because of the quarantine as well. But even so, I thought we were a good organisation. Really good players. But we are aware that the Premier League doesn't always operate like that. So it is fair to say that the games coming will be tougher, I think.
What did you do on Saturday? Were you desperate to be studying that technical area?
No, I think I'm old enough and wise enough in what I do now to use the time when you can wisely. I kept up with the games over the last few days, but also, used that afternoon, as I said, wisely, just a bit of downtime, really. But we'll know, we're ready for when it comes our way, which starting with Thursday, it'll soon come around.
Going back to the sort of transfer speculation, where is the club up to with the likes of Tarkowski and Dwight McNeil as well?
Yeah, nothing's changed. You've got to remember that it's all out there, that all these things try and change. There's nothing changing in here. They're Burnley football players, that's it.
There was a statement, I don't know if you saw it, from Preston North End yesterday, who they said they don't really comment on transfer speculation, but they had to release a press release to say that they were left frustrated about a number of clubs trying to do their bidding through press and social media. Are you sensing that there's a frustration there that this kind of thing is happening and it's happening more now?
No, it's been happening for a long time, and I don't think it's a new thing. There's a frustration across football, but everyone plays the game. Don't think that the ones who say that are not doing it, not necessarily Preston, by the way, to be clear on that. I probably think they're actually ones that don't tend to do that. But I think most teams do, or a version of it. But I must defend the clubs as well, though. It's important to remember a lot more agents are involved in football now. So it's not always the clubs, by the way. It's often the agents who are getting stories out there. And, of course, you in the media have got so much to fill now that any little snippet makes a story. So I think we're just aware of it. I don't think anyone's particularly at fault. I just think it's part of the modern game and part of the modern media's view of the modern game.
Do you welcome it?
It's irrelevant whether I welcome it or not. It's there. It's not going away. The media streams are getting vast. They're not getting smaller. And the idea that the thirst for clickbait is incredible. And we're all guilty of it, by the way. No matter what line of work you're in, everyone's guilty of seeing that headline, even when it's not factually true. They just click on it, read 4 lines, move on to the next one. So I think we're all guilty of that. I just think it's modern life.
Do you see stories and then have to maybe call a player to see if they're true, or do you just there's a story? Right?
No, don't have to worry about all that.
Going into the cup game, then, do we learn anything from the game against Wolves the other night from Sheffield United?
No, well, I wouldn't say I learn. They just remind you that they keep going. Because I just suggested there, I thought Wolves were excellent in the early part of the game. Got off to a flying start, of course, but they are a good outfit, and they look like a good outfit. But Sheffield United in a different way did. They stick at it. They compete. They don't go under easy. And they've learned from last season, and that's an important factor. So, yeah, by no means are we thinking that these games are a walk in the park. But we've got enough respect, healthy respect for every football team, but especially the Premier League, having known it well. We've got respect for all of these teams. So no matter what the competition, we know we've got to deliver a performance.
What do you make of these cup games, the way that they're giving sort of 48 hours rest? You're going to be playing this one, then you're going to be playing it at the weekend as well. Does it dampen down this cup and make you have to change squads more readily because of how quickly the games come?
Well, changing squad's a challenge for us with the amount of players we've got. But looking back on the question, then I've never offered anything else than we want to do well in the cups. But I've also offered the facts, and that is that it's not as important as the Premier League. It's just a fact, business-wise. The kudos of the Premier League, Burnley Football Club being in the Premier League. That is a bigger kudos and a more appropriate one. And, of course, the finances involved than the cup. So it's nothing to do with dampening down the cup, in my opinion. It's just literally a logical fact that the Premier League is more important to us.
Cheers, Sean. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. James at Talk Sport.
Hi, Sean.
Hiya.
Sean, in terms of, you look back at last season, there was a 7-match unbeaten run you had during Project Restart. How much does that encourage you about what can be possible when you do have a number of key injuries to a number of key positions, especially when you consider some of the benches that you had to field at the end of last season?
I've never really concerned myself with the idea of the injuries, because I've always thought that's a great opportunity for someone else, to take on the challenge of either doing a job for the team or staying in the team. So I think there's a healthy side to that. Now, of course, on the balance that you want the best players, and you want the players that have been operating for you for a number of seasons who have done very well. Of course, that's a given. But equally, as I said, I think when these chances open up, let's see what the other players can do. Let's see the ones who get a chance, because often situations have opened up and a player has gone in and then kept their shirt for a long period. So I think it is an opportunity when injuries do happen, but it is a challenge, quite obviously.
When you look at Sheffield United, do you almost envy the position they're in terms of, you look, it's been another big summer for them in terms of bringing players in, either transfers or loans for some young players?
No, there's no envy. I've been here long enough to know how we operate. It's an ongoing challenge, particularly with the finances. We've made sense. We'll have to try and do that again going forwards. But no, there's no envy. These clubs are running whatever way they see fit, whatever way their owners see fit. They have invested quite heavily last season and this season. But why wouldn't they? If they've got the money available, then they're back in the Premier League. They've done a really, really strong season last year and done fantastically well. Then they want to try and build on that. That's just the way it goes in their model, their business model, if you like. Ours is different here. It doesn't always work like that, as we know. So every season's a restart and every season's a new challenge.
In your time as Burnley manager, there's always been speculation around some of your key players. I think the Michael Keane situation seemed to go on for a long period of time. This situation with James, has it changed him at all? Have you noticed any change in his demeanour? Because he seems to be the player this summer, at least from a Burnley point of view, who's attracting a lot of speculation.
Actually, the longest one was Danny Ings. Danny Ings made every press conference, I think, for about 14 years. So he's the longest ongoing. I think I'm surprised they didn't ask me about it now, because he scored some goals last year. What do you think? Is he going to leave? They used to ask me incessantly every single week. So he's definitely the longest one. So Tark's in comparison is nothing. You've only asked me 400 times in the last week. Compared to Danny Ings, that's like 10%. So, yeah, it's no drama to me, trust me. It's not my first rodeo dealing with players being linked elsewhere, or players being linked to us.
In terms of your observations from the opening weekend of the Premier League season, there were 6 away wins from the opening 8 games. I know it's only a small sample size, but does that give you an indication of just how much of an effect fans being in stadiums does have on home sides?
Well, there was a lot of research done a number of years ago about teams going away and the testosterone levels in the blood and therefore, affected behaviours on a football pitch. So, to say that the stats have changed somewhat with away results, it does suggest that the crowds have a big part. And of course, they would, a stimulus of, you going out with the support of however many thousand, in our case, sort of 20, around 20. If you're at, Old Trafford, sort of 70 odd, well, it's fair to say that would stimulate slightly further than if it's an empty stadium. I'm not sure there's enough data on it yet to be factual, but it certainly looks that is having some effect.
And just finally from me, in terms of fans getting back inside stadiums, it looks like there's going to be another delay on that. I don't think we're going to get 30% inside Turf Moor in October. How damaging is that for a club like Burnley as well, not having those gate receipts, and also for the community as well? The likes of the pubs, the cafes, they're not going to get the business they would have done if there was a full crowd.
In our case, it's totally, I understand it from the people's point of view, from local businesses and just fans wanting to come and see the team. But as a business model, it doesn't really create any massive effect on us financially. If you look at our gate receipts over a season compared to, some of the big clubs, if you like, who can fit 50, 60, 70,000 in their stadium, and our gate receipts are pretty insignificant in comparison to theirs. That doesn't mean that they're still important. Of course, they're still important. And some of the corporate stuff we do. But a lot of it in our case is down to the feel-good factor of that, the community, the way the club is attached to the community, rather than the actual finance. It's not going to have a huge effect on us financially, although that money is welcome here because every pound is a prisoner. I can assure you of that at Burnley Football Club.
Cheers, Sean. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, thanks.
Thanks, James. Carl, Mark, not TA.
Hi, Sean.
Hiya.
Just a quick one from me. Going back to Sheffield United, they're already being talked about with the dreaded second season syndrome. Now, you've been there and done that. Does that actually exist in any form, in terms of you've got to move things on, or is it more difficult, or is it just an invention that we like to come up with to address their problems?
Yeah, no, I think it's a bit of everything. I think it makes a very convenient, quick media story, a quick media hit, clickbait. So there's another one for you. Always all over Sheffield United after one game. I doubt it myself, but you never know. So I think there's a bit of that. I think there is a little bit. I think what it is, the excitement and the thrill and the feeling of a first season in the Premier League, because everyone's a bit open with you. Everyone's a bit kind of, come on then, let's see what they can do. Your fans included, the media included. The media often give you a much bigger leeway in that first season. It's almost like, okay, they're finding their feet. Let's see how they go. And they lay off you a bit. So I think there's a number of factors. The opposition, they also recognise you more, because certainly Sheffield United after that, so they'll be recognising some of the tactical idea, what they do. They'll recognise that more. So you kind of... it's harder to catch teams out with that because they've got more knowledge of you. Their group all playing at the maximum, if you like. Second season, you've got to find that consistency of performance, over a season, whereas the first season's full of that energy that naturally comes from being in the Premier League. So it's not remotely that you can't carry on that and achieve it as we've done, because we have, but it's a different challenge. It just adds a little bit more weight on it all than what the first season was, with this kind of open attitude to, fantastic, you're back in the Premier League, let's see what these can deliver. It just adds a bit more weight to it. So Chris and these guys, after delivering such a strong season, I just think there'll be a little bit more weight on top. People going, well, come on then, you were brilliant last season. Let's see what you can deliver this season. And that sometimes it can play with the psyche a little bit of players. Not always, but it can do. So I think that, just using Sheffield United as an example, that kind of encapsulates a reasoning. If it suggests that second season is tougher, it's for a sort of an amalgamation of all the things I've just mentioned.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Lastly, for this section, Alex, James, Lancashire Live.
Hey, Sean.
Hiya.
Just you mentioned there, obviously, the sort of small squad you're working with at the moment. How do you balance the selection for Thursday night with obviously the Premier League priorities coming on Sunday and perhaps not wanting to risk the key players for Thursday?
Well, we've mostly done before. We just pick a team that could win. That's always been the thinking. It hasn't always worked, but that's always the thinking. I'm not really... Look, a lot's made of game schedules. I spoke in after the lockdown. I said, no, our lads will be fine. So they'll be ready to get on with it. As it happened, they weren't as regards injuries. But guess what? The ones who were fit got on with it, exactly what I suggested. So I don't think I'm too worried about the game schedule. It's what it is. It's factual. It's there right in front of us. That's the challenge. We get on with it.
Opportunity for a couple of the younger players who have been in and around it or not?
Possibly.
Fair enough. Given the sort of squad size that you're dealing with, was there ever a time where you and as a club and Ben Gibson attempted any sort of reconciliation to bring him back into the fold as a body that you already had in the building to address any of that?
It wasn't a case of reconciliation. I can assure you I spoke to Gibbo a few times. I sent him a message the other day saying, look, I hope it goes really well with you. There was a certain situation, a moment in time. It doesn't continue after that. I don't think I've got a grudge with any player I've ever dealt with, good or bad, and certainly not him. But there was a business decision made as much as anything. So he's gone on to pastures new at the moment, see how that goes for him, but hopefully it will go very well for him.
And just lastly for me, on the sort of business front, I guess, and the recruitment front, do you feel that yourselves and the board and the recruitment department are all on the same page in what you're trying to achieve? I know it's obviously difficult financially, but you're all pulling in the same direction to bring in what you can when you can.
Well, I think what broke it open was when I pushed for Messi. That really broke it open. There's a bit of a disagreement with the realities of our club financially against the market and that individual player. So that disbanded us a little bit, but I'm pleased to say we come back together when we found someone for a tenner. We all joined together again and went, right, okay, let's have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes that section. We're now going to the writtens with the embargoes that you guys want to sort out between yourselves as well. It's a couple of days away. And we'll start in the writtens with Chris Bowden of the Burnley Express. Thank you.